Hey guys, today we are looking at the math section of an ACT that Jaden had just taken. This is J22 or June 2022. And on this one, Jaden got 10 wrong. He got a 31, and that was 2 wrong in the first 40 questions and then 8 wrong in the last 20. We're going to go over all of those as well as the ones that he got right, but he guessed on. All right, I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. The first one that he got wrong was number 33. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to this? And you have a quadratic on top. Always rewrite everything that they give you. How would you factor these? Well, let's do the bottom first because it's easy. What is it?
It's going to be plus 6 and minus 6.
Okay. Plus 6 and minus 6. This is the difference of squares. Okay. And then over here, what do we have?
We have a 6 and a 2.
Okay.
And then it's plus 6 and minus 2.
Okay, so these guys cancel out. So we have minus 2 and minus 6. B. All right, number 35. We have in the standard xy coordinate plane, what is the slope of the line that contains that and has a y-intercept of 1? So let's just can draw out a coordinate plane. It has a y-intercept of 1. And what is the slope of the line that contains negative 2, negative 2? So negative 2, negative 2. That's the line, and we want its slope. Well, we know that it's a positive slope, so it's not that. And we know that because it's hitting if it were it's hitting negative 2, negative 2, and it's not hitting the origin, right? It's not going straight like that. In fact, is it steeper than a line that would hit the origin, or is it flatter?
Steeper.
Steeper. So we know that the slope has to be what?
Greater than 1.
Greater than 1. It's probably going to be this one because 3 is very steep, right? Because if we were to graph slope of 3, coming through the origin, it would hit right there. It would go like that. That's a slope of 3. Slope of 3 over 2, 1.5 would be in 1.5. It would be like that, which is more like this one here. So that's probably going to be the answer. In order to get this slope, we have negative 2, negative 2, and we have 0, 1. So that'd be 1 minus negative 2 over 0 minus negative 2. 1 minus negative 2 is 1 plus 2. It's 2. 3 over 2. 44. So for all such theta such that cosine theta does not equal 0 and sine theta does not equal 0, which of the following expressions is equal to tangent theta over secant theta? Well, a couple things that you need to know to do this is tangent theta is opposite over adjacent. It's also sine theta over cosine theta. Did you know that?
No.
Okay, think about it. Right? If we have a triangle, let's say that's our theta, and we'll just call this, let's just say sine theta is opposite. Let's call this x, y, z. That would be y over z. Cosine theta would be x over z. And tangent theta would be opposite over adjacent. Let's put sine over cosine. Y over z over x over z. That's y over z times z over x. Right? Which is y over x.
I see.
Which is tangent. So tangent theta is sine over cosine. And what is secant theta? Do you know?
I don't know what secant
It's
is.
the cofunction of cosine. It's actually 1 over cosine theta. So it's the reciprocal of cosine.
So basically secant times cosine would equal 1?
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. And then the cofunction of sine is cosecant. You write it like that. Cosecant theta is 1 over sine theta. And then cotangent theta is 1 over tangent theta. So we have this right here. And we have tangent, which is this. So then we're just going to multiply them together. No, we're going to divide. Sorry. So that'll be sine theta over cosine theta divided by 1 over cosine theta, which is the same thing as times cosine theta over 1. So that's sine theta. All right, 46. Which of the following sets is the range of this function? If we were to graph this function, I have no idea what it would look like, but let's just say
I graphed it and it was so weird.
Let's just say it's something like this, right? The domain, and let's just say this just keeps going. The domain here would be all real numbers. It's every x value that gives you a y value. It's your input. It's whatever you put in. Your output, your range is your output, right? So it's your y values. So let's say that, well, this graph won't show you anything other than all real numbers. Actually, no. Let's say that means for this graph, this particular graph, there are no y values below, let's say, -3, right? If that's the case, then the range would be -3, and let's say that it does hit -3, so we would actually use a hard bracket like that. If it didn't touch -3, but if it approached it, we would use this parentheses.
Mm-hmm.
This is interval notation. So, and let's say that it just keeps going. So we have as many y, it just keeps going. So then that would be infinity. It would go up to infinity. And infinity always has just a parentheses on that one side. So that would be the range for that graph. Okay, so that's what range is. So how do we get the range here? Well, what y values can we not get? Whatever this is, whatever this expression is, we're going to square it. That means it has to be positive, right? No matter what. That means it has to be 0 or more than 0. That means that f of x, which is our y, cannot be less than 3, right? So then 3, it's not going to be -3. It's not going to be negative infinity. It's not going to be the zeros. So that's going to be our interval. It's going to be our range because it has to be at least 3, and then it's just going to keep increasing whatever that x is. What is the amplitude and period? Amplitude is going to be 3. Period is 2 pi divided by that number. That's how you find your period. It's 2 pi divided by b. And that's your b term, right? So if we have y is a sine b x minus c plus d, right? That's your period. Or it's 2 pi over b, which is your period. And you just need to know that for sine and cosine. For tangent, it's pi over b is your period for tangent. Okay, but let's think about it. Why does this make sense? Let's just graph a sine graph. So if this is a sine graph, and let's say that's at 2 pi, right? That's your period for y equals sine x. Well, what happens when y is sine 2x? That means that the period is actually going to be, what's going to be 2 pi over 2, which is pi. That means that graph is going to go like that. You're actually going to have 2 of them within 2 pi. Right? It's going to go about twice before it reaches 2 pi. That's what that means. If it's sine 4x, it's going to go 4 times. It'll go like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. if that number is greater than 1, that means that the period gets shorter, right? Because 1 period here is just 1 cycle. That would be the period. Or for sine 2x, it would be that. It would be pi.
I see.
So then that means that it can't be 2 pi and it can't be 4 pi, right? If it were just x, it would be 2 pi. But since it's 2x, it's shorter than 2 pi. 2 pi is the standard, which is why everything is divided from 2 pi. So then the period has to be less than 2 pi. That's the only answer choice that has a period less than 2 pi with the amplitude of 3. Okay, 53. What is the probability that both of the cookies you choose are the same type? Okay, jar contains 10 cookies of 3 types. Okay, so we have 5 chocolate chip. So yeah, 5 chocolate chip, 3 oatmeal raisin, and 2 sugar cookies. You reach into the jar and choose a cookie at random, and then without replacing, this is really important, the first cookie, reach into the jar and choose another cookie at random. What is the probability that both of the cookies you choose are the same type? Okay, so we're going to find the probability that the 2 are chocolate chip. We're going to find the probability that the 2 are oatmeal raisin, and the probability that the 2 are sugar. Okay?
That's what I did.
So then walk me through it. What would you do?
So I would do, the first one is 5 out of 10. The second one is 4 out of 9. And then for the oatmeal raisins is 3 out of 10, and then 2 out of 9. And then 2 out of 10 and 1 out of 9.
Okay, so then we're going to calculate these and add them up.
And then,
so that would be, well, let's just do them all out of 90. So that would be 20 out of 90, 6 out of 90, 2 out of 90. So if we add them all up, that's 28 out of 90. So is that what you did?
so that's what I did in the correction. The actual test, I didn't have enough time to do it, so I just picked A. But I know I picked E because I thought that it would just be the least probability.
57. Which of the following equations gives a relationship between X and Y? So the Math Club is selling t-shirts as a fundraiser. There is a linear relationship between X, the number of t-shirts sold, and Y, the profit in dollars from selling the t-shirts. So we know this is like that, right? When the club sells 6 shirts, it makes a profit of $10. So this is shirts sold, and Y is profit. When the club sells 6 shirts, it makes a profit of 10. So 10 equals slope times 6 plus B. When it sells 10, you have a profit of 20. Which of the following equations gives the relationship between X and Y? So this is really a system of equations, right? We just have 2 variables here now.
And you plug it in.
You could plug it in, or we could just get rid of B. So we're going to subtract. I'm going to subtract this way, okay? So that's 10m, 6m, and B. So this will be 0. 10m minus 6m is 4m. And 20 minus 10 is 10. So we know that our slope is 10 over 4 or 5 over 2. So then it's going to be one of these. And then once you find that, we can just solve for B. So we'll use the first equation. 10 is 5 over 2 times 6 plus B. So we'll just bring that over. That's 10 minus 15. So it has to be a minus 5. 58. For the following system of equations, what does Y equal? All right, so we're going to rewrite them. and 2 to the x plus y is 8. We're going to change this. We need to change this into something like this, right? What is 32? 2 to the
2 to the 5th.
And what is 8?
2 to the 3rd.
Okay, so then we're trying to solve for y. What this means is that equals 5 and that equals 3. So we have a system of equations again. So we'll do elimination again, and we want to solve for y, so let's eliminate the x's. So we're just going to subtract. X minus x is 0, negative y minus y is minus 2y, 5 minus 3 is 2. So that's negative 2y equals 2. So then y equals negative 1. Okay, next one. Which of the following relations must hold between a and b? In this equation, all right, we have a quadratic. I'm just going to rewrite it. Coefficients a, b, and c are positive real numbers. These are positive real numbers. If a equals c, and both roots of the quadratic equation are real numbers, which of the following equations must hold between a and b? All right, so we're going to start with the quadratic equation. Do you remember this one?
No.
Negative b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. What does this mean? This means that if there is a parabola, because this is a quadratic equation, if you graph this with different numbers, it'll create a parabola. Now, it's saying that it has both roots are real numbers. That means it's crossing the x-axis at 2 points. So the parabola, and it says that they're positive real numbers. So since a is positive, this is an upward facing parabola. Let's just say it looks something like that, okay? It's going to have 2 real roots. Does that make sense? This equation helps us to find those two. Okay, so think about it. There's a line of symmetry here somewhere. That negative b over 2a is your line of symmetry, and then you're adding something to it, and then you're subtracting something to it. So that negative b over 2a gives us that line, and then we subtract and add that same amount to each side to get those 2 points. That's what this equation is doing. Does that make sense? All right, so we have this quadratic, and it says if a and c, a equals c, both roots are real numbers, which of the following relations must hold between a and b? In order for us to have 2 roots, it means that this right here, this is called the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, it has to be greater than 0. b squared minus 4ac has to be greater than or equal to 0. Actually, not equal to, just greater than 0. Why? Because if it's 0, then this becomes negative b plus minus 0 over 2a. That means when we're going to add and subtract, we're just adding and subtracting 0, which means that we don't have 2 roots. In fact, that graph is going to look like this. That's what that graph is going to look like. We're only going to have one solution because we add 0 this way, and we subtract 0 and we add 0. That's what that looks like. So, and if this is less than 0, then what happens?
It's an imaginary number.
Yeah, which means it's not going to look like this at all. It'll look like this, like that. It won't even cross the x-axis. So if we want this situation, this needs to be positive. So it's positive, it's greater than 0. So then let's just solve. So that means b squared is greater than 4ac. I just brought that to the other side. A and c are equal, right? So then I'm just going to make that into an a. B squared is greater than 4aa. B squared is greater than 4a squared. Let's just square root everything. So b is greater than 2a. Let's put this on the other side. A is less than b over 2. All of the answers are in terms of a, so that's why we had to isolate that a. So a is less than b over 2. It actually might be greater than or equal to, because they might be saying that this root right here, even though it's, if I were to look at the quadratic, it's actually going to be something like this. Let's say this is 1, 2, 3. This would actually be x minus 3, x minus 3. So we would only really have one root, x equals 3, but we're counting it twice. So that's why we can say both roots. So both roots are 3 in this instance, right? Mm-hmm. So we're actually taking into account the situation where they're actually equal to each other, where b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, or b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0. That's why we have that greater than or equal to. All right, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, that is it for math.